I stood in the midst of our new living room, the smell of fresh paint still lingering in the air, and felt a surge of pride sweep over me. Alyssa and I had just married. The knot in this modest house in a quiet Denver suburb was ours. A fresh start, a home to build our life together. It wasn't much, just a basic 3-bedroom with a small yard, but it was wonderful for us. The hardwood floors creaked under my boots as I brought the last box inside, and I could already envision us here. Maybe a kid or two down the line, a dog chasing its tail in the backyard. I was grinning like an idiot, thinking about how blessed I was to have her as my wife. Alyssa was in the kitchen, humming some tune I didn't recognize, unpacking dishes we'd bought as wedding gifts. Everything felt great, like the world had finally lined up for me. But the bubble burst faster than I thought. It hadn't even been a full week since we moved in when I heard a car pull into the driveway. I glanced out the window and saw Diane and Harold, Alyssa's parents, stepping out of their aging sedan. My gut constricted a little. They hadn't called? Hadn't texted? Just showed up like they owned the place. I opened the door before they could knock, attempting to make things friendly. "Hey, good to see you," I remarked, trying a smile. Diane pushed by me without a word, her gaze scanning the house like she was searching for code violations. Harold followed, grunting a hello, his bushy eyebrows furrowed as he measured up the furniture we'd picked out together. They stayed longer than I wanted, peering around, asking questions I didn't feel like answering. Diane kept stressing how the curtains were too thin, how the kitchen needed better illumination. Harold merely nodded along, muttering about how the neighborhood wasn't as safe as it looked. I bit my tongue, figuring they were just being overprotective. Alyssa, on the other hand, seemed thrilled to see them, chattering away like it was normal for them to barge in unannounced. Just as they were getting ready to leave, Diane turned to Alyssa with this piercing little smirk and stated, "We need a spare key, you know, simply to check in whenever we want." My jaw tightened. Before I could say anything, Alyssa was all ready, nodding, going through a drawer and handing over the extra key we'd made. Just like that. No conversation. No glance my way. Diane pocketed it, and Harold clapped me on the shoulder like we'd all agreed on some fantastic plan. "Good to know we can keep an eye on things," he remarked. Then they walked out. I stood there, staring at the closed door, feeling something nasty twist in my gut. This wasn't just a visit. It was them establishing a claim. Alyssa came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist, soft and warm. "They're just worried about us," she said, her voice light. Like it was no big deal, I wanted to believe her. I wanted to think it was nothing. But as I turned to look at her, smiling that wonderful smile I'd fallen for, I couldn't shake the sensation that this was only the beginning. They had a key now. They could walk in any time they felt like it. Our house, our life, suddenly didn't feel like ours anymore. I hugged her back, kissed the top of her head, but my mind was already racing. I wasn't going to let this slide. Not for long. This was our home, and I'd be damned if I allowed anyone, even her parents, to use it like their personal playground. Something had to change, and I was already figuring out how to make it happen. I kept thinking about Mom and Dad, how upset they were, how you locked them in. I reached for her hand, but she pulled it back, wrapping it around the mug instead. "I had to," I murmured, trying to keep the irritation out of my tone. "They can't just walk in here like that." She nodded slowly but didn't say anything else. That stillness sat heavy between us. The day dragged on like that, quiet, tense. Both of us tiptoeing around what happened, wanting to explain, to make her understand why I did it. But every time I opened my mouth, I saw that look in her eyes, the one that signaled she wasn't ready to hear it. So I stayed busy, tinkering with the truck in the garage, checking the cameras, even though I knew her parents wouldn't dare show up again so quickly. Ray stayed out of the way, smashing, in the basement, giving us space. I imagined they'd lick their wounds for a while, maybe back off after the embarrassment of getting caught. I was wrong. Around midday, my phone rang. The landlord's name appeared on the screen. My intuition told me this wasn't a check-in call. "Hey, Mike," I answered, wiping grease off my hands with a cloth. "What's up?" His voice came across gruff, a little angry. "Got a weird call this morning," he said. "Your wife's parents, Diane and Harold, right? They offered to pay out the rest of your lease, stated they'd cover the full year if I ended your tenancy and let them take over the house instead." I froze. The cloth slipped from my hand. "They what?" I asked, my voice low. Like I hadn't heard right. Mike groaned. "Yeah. Stated they're worried about Alyssa, that you're not stable or whatever. I told them no. Your rent's usually on time, no difficulties. But I thought you should know." I gripped the phone tighter, my jaw throbbing from how hard I was clenching it. "Thanks, Mike," I managed to reply. "Appreciate it." He grunted and hung up, leaving me standing there, staring at the wall. I couldn't believe it. They didn't just cross a line. They tried to erase everything altogether. Buying out our lease, throwing us out of our own house. This wasn't about helping Alyssa anymore. It was a power play, pure and simple. I paced the garage, my boots scuffing the concrete, trying to wrap my head around how far they'd go. Diane and Harold weren't just meddling parents. They were playing a whole different game, one where they thought they could outmaneuver me, take control of our life like it was theirs to run. My first instinct was to tell Alyssa, put it all out there, let her see what they were capable of. But I stopped myself. She was still unsettled from last night, still trapped in that tug-of-war between me and them. If I dumped this on her now, she wouldn't believe me. Or worse, she might defend them, say it was some twisted way of caring. I chose to wait. I needed her to see it for herself, to feel the weight of what they were doing, without me pushing her. So, I kept it to myself, pushed the anger down deep, where it wouldn't show. The rest of the day I pretended normal. Helped her make dinner, watched some foolish show on TV, even laughed when she spilled sauce on the counter. But inwardly, I was boiling. Every time I looked at her, I wondered, how much did she know about them? How much had she let slide over the years? When we went to bed, she curled up on her side, facing away from me, and I lay there, staring at the ceiling, remembering Mike's words. They're trying to buy our house, out from under us. It was daring, brutal, and I had to admit, part of me was surprised they had the guts, but mostly, I was pissed. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't telling her yet, but I wasn't sitting still either. I checked the cameras again, made sure the deadbolt code was fresh, even texted Ray to keep an eye out. He answered with a thumbs up and a beer emoji, which was about as serious as he got. I didn't know what Diane and Harold would try next, but I knew they weren't done. They'd lost the first battle, been humiliated in front of us, and now they'd gone for the big move. It didn't work, but it showed me something. They weren't just bothersome in-laws anymore. They were opponents, and I had to start thinking 2 steps ahead.